Rome, blood, power. You know the tales of the mighty emperors, the epic conquests, the legions marching across the world. But there are 7 executions that the history books never tell you about. 7 deaths so brutal that even the Romans themselves were left stunned. Methods that made even gladiators tremble. Tortures that stretched on for days. Public vengeances that turned city squares into nightmares. Why were these executions buried by history? What did Rome desperately want you to forget? Prepare to uncover the darkest side of the greatest empire of antiquity. If you value documented, factual history like this, please subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to support our work. Also, let us know which city you're listening from in the comments below. This script is thoroughly researched and factual, drawing from sources like Tacitus and Suetonius. Now, back to the story. 7 cases. 7 names Rome tried to erase. Let's uncover why each one of them had to die in such a savage manner. Number 1, Sejanus, in the year 23A. Rome, the most powerful man in the empire, second only to the emperor himself, praetorian prefect under Tiberius. He controlled the guard, controlled the palace, controlled who could even speak to Caesar. But Sejanus made a fatal error. He tried to overthrow Tiberius and seize power for himself. The emperor discovered his treachery through a secret letter from Sejanus' own mother. On October 25th, Tiberius sent a letter to the Senate. The senators believed they were about to crown Sejanus as successor. Instead, the letter was a devastating denunciation. Sejanus has betrayed Rome. The words echoed through the Senate chamber. Within 2 hours, Rome's most powerful man was declared a public enemy. The execution? Far too simple for a traitor of such magnitude. First, 3 consecutive days of torture in the dungeons of the Palatine. Then, public strangulation in the Roman Forum. But it didn't end there. His daughter, just 9 years old, was raped by the executioners. Roman law forbade the execution of virgins, so they violated her first. Afterward, she too was strangled. His wife Apicata committed suicide, but not before sending a letter to the emperor confessing that Sejanus had poisoned Drusus, Tiberius' son. Sejanus' body lay exposed for 3 days. The mob tore off pieces of his flesh. On the 4th day, his remains were thrown into the Tiber River. His assets, valued at 40 million sesterces, went straight into the imperial treasury. End of his line, end of his memory. Number 2, Messalina. In the year 48 AD, the gardens of Lucullus in Rome, the 3rd wife of Emperor Claudius, the most powerful woman in the world. But absolute power corrupts absolutely. Messalina wasn't content merely being empress. She craved more, much more. She organized orgies within the imperial palace. She forced senators to participate as a means of blackmail. She even competed with prostitutes to see who could sleep with more men in a single night. She won with 25 partners. But her fatal mistake was secretly marrying Gaius Silius, a consul-elect, while still wed to Claudius. The plan: assassinate the emperor and place Silius on the throne, with her as the true power behind it all. Claudius discovered it through his freedmen. October of 48, the emperor was in Ostia, overseeing construction of the port. The news arrived. Messalina has married another man. Claudius refused to believe it. He demanded confirmation 3 times. Narcissus, his secretary, brought the witnesses. The emperor ordered immediate execution, but Messalina was cunning. She fled to the gardens of Lucullus. She sent desperate messages to Claudius. It was a misunderstanding. I can explain everything. Think of our children. Claudius wavered. Narcissus realized the emperor might forgive his wife, as he had done before, so he made the decision himself. He sent praetorian soldiers with a clear order: kill Messalina. They found her in the gardens. They tried to force her to commit suicide, a more honorable death for a patrician woman. She refused. A centurion advanced with his gladius. Messalina tried to flee among the trees. The blade pierced her back. She fell amidst white rose blossoms. Her blood stained the petals. When Claudius returned for dinner, Narcissus simply informed him, "Messalina is dead." The emperor asked for more wine and never spoke her name again. Damnatio memoriae. Her name was chiseled from all public inscriptions. Her statues, destroyed, as if she had never existed. Treason comes with a price. Rome always collects. Number 3, Agrippina the Younger. In the year 59, A.D. Avila in Baiae, mother of Emperor Nero. The woman who placed her own son on the throne through murder, blackmail, and political seduction. But controlling mothers and emperors rarely mix well. Agrippina had poisoned her husband Claudius with amanita mushrooms to ensure that Nero, not Britannicus, inherited power. For 5 years, she ruled through her son. She signed decrees. She received ambassadors. Her image even appeared on coins alongside Nero's, something utterly unprecedented. But Nero grew up, and grown sons don't appreciate mothers telling them what to do, especially when those mothers know all their dirty secrets. Agrippina began to threaten her son. "If you don't obey me, I'll tell Rome you're not the legitimate heir. Britannicus is still alive. I can put him in your place." A fatal miscalculation. No one blackmails a Roman emperor. First, Nero tried poison. He hired Locusta, Rome's most infamous poisoner. The poison failed. Agrippina took antidotes daily, paranoid about assassination attempts. Second plan, an accident. Nero ordered a special boat to be built with a collapsing roof for a journey. Agrippina boarded it for a party in Baiae. The roof collapsed as planned, but she survived, swimming to shore. Third plan, brute force. Nero sent Anicetus, commander of the Praetorian fleet, with direct orders, "Kill my mother." March 19th, in the year 59. Soldiers stormed Agrippina's villa. She instantly realized what was happening. She didn't beg. She didn't cry. Instead, she pointed to her own womb and screamed, "Strike here! This is where Nero came from." Anicetus hesitated for a second. A soldier did not. The spear pierced her abdomen. Agrippina fell. More blows. Blood everywhere. When Nero received news of his mother's death, his first reaction was relief. Then, fear. What if the gods punish me for matricide? He consulted soothsayers. They assured him the gods approved. Nero organized public games to celebrate his liberation from a conspiracy. Agrippina's body was cremated that same night. Her ashes scattered into the sea. No funeral, no ceremony. To Rome, the emperor's mother never died. She simply vanished. Number 4, Apuleius Saturninus. In the year 100 AD, December tour to Rome. Saturninus was no ordinary politician. He was governor of Germania Superior. He commanded 4 legions on the Rhine frontier, 24,000 disciplined and loyal soldiers. But loyalty to Rome and loyalty to the emperor were sometimes different things. Trajan was campaigning in Dacia, far from Rome, far from the Rhine legions. Saturninus saw an opportunity. His troops were discontent with delayed payments. The winter of 100 was especially harsh. Temperatures plunged to 20 degrees below zero. Supplies were delayed. Morale was low. Saturninus convinced his commanders, "Trajan has forgotten us. Rome has forgotten us. What if we forge our own empire here in the north?" January of the year 101. Saturninus declared himself emperor. He minted coins with his face. The 14th and 22nd legions joined the revolt. Letters were sent to other provinces seeking support. But Rome had spies everywhere. The news reached Trajan in just 12 days via the cursus publicus. The emperor didn't panic. He sent a secret letter to Maximus, military commander in Germania Inferior. A single order: destroy Saturninus. Maximus acted swiftly. He marched with 2 legions across the frozen Rhine. January 19th, the forces met near Mogontiacum, modern-day Mainz. A brutal battle erupted in the snow. 3 hours of combat. Saturninus' legion retreated. He himself fled to a nearby fortified villa. Maximus surrounded the location. There was no escape. Saturninus tried to negotiate. He promised voluntary exile. Maximus refused. Traitors don't retire. Soldiers stormed the villa. They found Saturninus hiding in a barn. He attempted an honorable suicide with his own sword. He failed. 1 legionary severed his right hand, another, his left. Saturninus was still breathing. A 3rd blow decapitated the rebel. His head was placed on a spear. The march back to Rome began. 42 days later, Saturninus' head arrived at the Roman Forum. Trajan displayed it publicly for a week. Then, he threw it into the sewers of the Cloaca Maxima. His assets were confiscated, his family exiled, his soldiers decimated, 1 in every 10 executed by lot. The revolt lasted 27 days. The consequences, a generation. Ambition without prudence. Death without honor. Number 5, Cassius Chaerea, in the year 41 A.D., January 1st, Rome, tribune of the Praetorian Guard. A war veteran, a man respected by all of Rome, except by one person, Emperor Caligula. Chaerea was 52 years old. He had the gravelly voice of a commander. Battle scars covered his hands and arms, but Caligula found it amusing to publicly humiliate him. Every time Chaerea asked for the daily watchword, Caligula would respond with feminine names. Aphrodite, Venus, Priapus. The soldiers would laugh. Chaerea swallowed his humiliation. But emperors who humiliate dangerous men commit suicide by proxy. Caligula was also spending far too much money. Tiberius had left 2.7 billion sesterces in the treasury. In 3 years, Caligula squandered it all. He built temporary bridges just to ride across them. He appointed his horse a consul. He forced senators to sell their estates to fund his whims. Rome was bankrupt. The Senate was furious. Chaerea realized a conspiracy was inevitable. He decided to lead rather than be led. He recruited other praetorians, Cornelius Sabinus, Cassius Longinus, men weary of serving a madman. January 24th, in the year 41. The Palatine Games in honor of Augustus were underway. Caligula was at the temporary theater built on the Palatine. Noon. The first part of the games concluded. Caligula rose to have lunch. He walked up through the underground corridor connecting the theater to the palace. Chaerea and his men waited in the passage. Hail. Caesar. Caligula turned. Chaerea drew his gladius. The first blow sliced through the emperor's neck. Caligula fell. He tried to speak, but only gargled blood. Sabinus struck his chest. Longinus, his back. 23 wounds in total. Caligula died in less than 2 minutes. But the conspiracy didn't stop there. They stormed the imperial palace. They found Caesonia, Caligula's wife, trying to flee with their young daughter, Julia Drusilla. 2 witnesses, 2 problems, Chaerea declared. Caesonia was killed with a gladius thrust to the heart. The girl, just 2 years old, had her skull smashed against a marble wall. Child's blood ran across the imperial mosaics. For a few hours, Chaerea believed he could control Rome. The Senate debated restoring the Republic, but the Praetorian Guard found Claudius hiding behind a curtain in the palace. They declared him emperor. Claudius promised a bonus of 15,000 sesterces to each soldier. Loyalty bought, Chaerea was arrested that same day. A summary trial. You killed a Roman emperor. Yes, Chaerea replied, and I would do it again. Execution by decapitation. But Claudius wanted to send a message. He ordered Chaerea to be forced to his knees, the ultimate humiliation for a man who hated being humiliated. Chaerea refused. 2 soldiers forced him to the ground. The axe fell. A life of military honor ended in the mud of the Mamertine prison. A final irony. Claudius ordered Chaerea's head embalmed and kept it as a personal trophy. The man who killed one mad emperor became a decoration for another. Number 6, Cleander. In the year 189 A.D., Rome. The most powerful man in the empire without being emperor. Praetorian prefect under Commodus, a former slave from Phrygia who rose to power through intelligence, cruelty, and a perfect understanding of imperial psychology. Commodus preferred to fight as a gladiator rather than govern Rome. Perfect for Cleander. While the emperor played the hero in the arena, Cleander controlled finances, military appointments, and foreign policy. He sold public offices to the highest bidder. A consulship cost 1 million sesterces, a praetorship 500,000, a quaestorship 200,000. In a single year, he appointed 25 consuls, a historic record. Rome became a marketplace. But excessive greed creates powerful enemies. Cleander controlled the city's grain supply. Rome imported 200,000 tons of wheat annually from Egypt. Without wheat, the population would starve. Cleander decided to manipulate prices. He artificially reduced imports. The price of bread skyrocketed. Poor families began to starve. Meanwhile, Cleander hoarded grain in private warehouses and then sold it for a 300% profit. Artificial famine, maximum profit. But a hungry Rome is a dangerous Rome. Crowds gathered in the Circus Maximus. 100,000 people shouting against Cleander. Death to the tyrant. Bread for Rome. The mob marched from the circus to the imperial palace. Cleander ordered Praetorian soldiers to disperse the protesters. A fatal miscalculation. The soldiers also had hungry families. Instead of attacking the people, they joined the revolt. Cleander realized he had lost control. He fled to the palace. He sought out Commodus. He found the emperor practicing swordplay with gladiators. Emperor, Rome is in revolt. Commodus didn't even lift his head. You deal with it. Don't interrupt me during my training, Cleander insisted. Commodus finally paid attention. The people want your head. Cleander, but I governed in your name. Precisely. And now you're causing too much trouble. Commodus gave a signal to the guard. Soldiers surrounded Cleander. He realized he had been abandoned by the very emperor who had put him in power. Immediate execution in the palace courtyard. But Commodus wanted a spectacle. He ordered Cleander's head to be placed on a spear and displayed to the enraged mob. When the people saw the head of the man who had starved them, the revolt turned into a celebration. Commodus appeared on the imperial balcony and received an ovation. Potem, I protected you from the tyrant Cleander. Perfect imperial hypocrisy. Cleander's body was dragged through the streets. Mobs spat on and kicked the remains. At the end of the day, everything was thrown into the Tiber River. His assets, valued at 50 million sesterces, went into the imperial treasury. Commodus used the money to build luxurious baths named after himself. Blood turned to marble. Famine became a monument. Power without limits. A fall without pity. Number 7. Flavius Sabinus, in the year 69, D. December, Rome. Brother of Emperor Vespasian, urban prefect for 12 years, the man responsible for public order in the greatest city in the world. But in 69, Rome was engulfed in civil war. The year of the 4 emperors, Galba, assassinated, Otho, suicide, Vitellius, in power, Vespasian. Marching from Egypt with the Eastern legions, Sabinus had a simple choice: support Vitellius, who was in Rome, or support his own brother, who was 600 miles away. Blood or survival. Sabinus chose blood. Secretly, he began to organize support for Vespasian within the city. He convinced units of the urban guard to switch sides. He promised rewards to senators who would back his brother, but Vitellius had efficient spies. December of 69. Soldiers loyal to Vitellius surrounded Sabinus' house in the dead of night. Sabinus escaped across the rooftops. He took refuge on the Capitoline Hill with a few loyal partisans, 42 armed men, a defensible position. But without supplies, Vitellius sent an ultimatum: surrender and you will be exiled, resist and you will die. Sabinus tried to negotiate. He sent his son as a hostage in exchange for safe passage out of Rome. Vitellius publicly agreed. Privately, he ordered the immediate execution of Sabinus' entire family. Double treachery. December 18th, Vitellius' soldiers attacked the Capitoline at dawn. A fierce battle raged among the columns of the Temple of Jupiter. Sacred blood on sacred ground. Sabinus fought with his sword until the end. He killed 3 attackers before being brought down by multiple spear wounds. But Vitellius wanted maximum humiliation for his rival's brother. Sabinus' body was dragged to the Roman Forum. It was put on public display for 3 days. Mobs threw stones and excrement at the corpse. On the 3rd day, his head was cut off and sent to Vespasian as a gift. But Rome shifted quickly. 3 weeks later, Vespasian's legions entered the city. Vitellius was captured and executed. Vespasian became emperor. His first order? To find every man who had mutilated his brother's body. 27 people were identified through witnesses. Public executions for an entire week in the very forum where Sabinus had been humiliated. Vengeance served cold, but complete. Sabinus' body was reassembled and given an imperial funeral. Statues in his honor rose across Rome. A temple dedicated to his memory. Death transformed into myth. Humiliation turned into heroism. These 7 executions reveal the brutal truth about Roman power. They weren't just methods to eliminate enemies. They were theaters of fear. Each death sent a specific message to a specific audience. Messalina to ambitious women. Sejanus to treacherous praetorians. Cleander to greedy freedmen. Agrippina to controlling mothers. But here's what no book mentions. Archaeologists discovered a common grave near Rome in 1985. 143 bodies, all decapitated. All from the same era. The 1st century A.D. Forensic analysis showed they were all adult men, well-nourished, with no signs of illness or heavy labor. Aristocrats. A bronze plaque buried alongside them simply read, Qui Caesar negavit, those who denied Caesar. Rome didn't just execute traitors, it erased them from history. 7 names survived, 143 did not. The empire built on blood always exacts its price in blood.